Good afternoon, Ursula. It's a real pleasure to have Ursula Kriegl with us this afternoon. She works for EY, better known perhaps to many of you as Ernst & Young. They're just changing their name. She's a hotel expert working mainly in Europe, Austrian, but currently based in Munich. And I really want to discuss with you, Ursula, what you think the hotel industry can do to contribute to biodiversity in the European context. Too often this debate centers on Africa and Asia or South America, but we have biodiversity in Europe too. What do you think hotels can do to make a difference in maintaining biodiversity?
Biodiversity is obviously very relevant already, and it's going to become even more relevant going forward. As we all know, the hotel industry is in a quite tough situation at the moment and has a lot of problems to deal with. However, that shouldn't keep us away from giving more thought to biodiversity. That has been done before. And as you rightly say, this is not an aspect that's simply relevant to the developing countries and to other parts of the world. It's also quite relevant to the established tourism destinations that we have here in Europe. Biodiversity means obviously many different things, and it's a very big subject, and maybe that magnitude also keeps people away from really focusing on that issue. However, at the end of the day, it might not be as difficult as we all think, and it might not be as big as everyone thinks. And if every hotel simply adopts one or two biodiversity initiatives, however small it is, we can already make a great deal of progress. And these initiatives, they can actually be quite simple. They may not even cost a great deal of money, and there may be a big motivating fact for the employees and the guests alike. I'm thinking of enlarging the green areas around the hotels, planting flowers that bees can populate, manufacturing honey, or having a little herb garden in the backyard, using supplies that have been locally produced and responsibly produced, and the like. That will not change the entire biodiversity issue globally. However, every little initiative counts.
The chefs, I think that's absolutely right. And I suspect that it's sometimes people like the chefs and the people responsible for the gardens in or around the hotel who can make the biggest difference here. And it's just a part of their work. It doesn't need necessarily to require very much funding, as you say.
Absolutely, it does not require a lot of funding, and it is also important to then value these ideas that are being brought forward, and to give a lot of support to people who want to make a small difference, because overall, given the size of the industry, there is going to be a great deal of impact, and we have to start somewhere. And if the start is not the overarching biodiversity strategy and the big package in a sense, then it's better to do something small and to do that quickly and to grow from there.
We also know, don't we, that employees who are getting more job satisfaction are less likely to move on, and that guests enjoy that kind of thing as well. It's a small commercial advantage potentially for a hotel to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Guests like to see that products or also that work that is being done there. And they do value that, and sometimes these initiatives also are the stories that guests take home with and that they talk about.
Just one final question, if I may, Ursula. mean, one of the questions that comes up all the time is about the impact of travel and tourism and the impact of hotels on the environments that they're placed in. And very often it seems to me those studies focus on the negatives. And they are real, some of the negative impacts of hotel, particularly excessive hotel development. But I'd have thought also that there's scope for measuring the positive impacts of things like the keeping of bees and gardens and so on. What's your view about that as an expert on hotels?
My sense is that impact studies become more relevant in the future, because we need to be more mindful what a hotel actually does to its environment, whether it's the nature, it's the local people. There are a great deal of issues that need to be taken care of and that need to be observed, and we need to know that implications also in order to increase the awareness of the various stakeholders and to get their buy-in in certain changes that or possibly need to be made to make a hotel more sustainable.
It still surprises me, not on the biodiversity particularly, but in general, that hotels are quite poor at reporting their local economic impacts or their local impact in terms of employment. And it just seems a shame, because often it's assumed that they're not having that local impact, whereas I think you would agree very often they are, but they're simply not reporting it. And if it's not reported, it becomes invisible.
There are very few guidelines effectively out there, or measures in a sense. So it's not so easy to simply take a list and then tick all the boxes. So it's very much a one-by-one approach. But of course, hotels can have and often do have a very, very positive impact on the local community and also on the individual destination. However, there is still potential to do even more about it and to be even more mindful about it. And this is also something where especially the established destinations now can make a difference. And as indicated before, it's vital to start somewhere. Yes. And even if this is not the ideal scenario, and even if there are still aspects that are missing or not being done in the best way, we need to start putting together the pieces of the puzzle, also to create best practices that effectively can be copied in other properties.
Yeah, absolutely. Ursula, thank you very much. I think that final message is absolutely right. The important thing is to start on this journey and to do what we can, rather than to just wait until there's a perfect solution. Thank you very much indeed for your time this afternoon. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Ursula.
My pleasure. Thank you.